we are.
Here we are.
Our first podcast. I'm excited.
We're 22 parents. We went to 22 parents because that's the year we became parents. So 2022.
Yes. Correct. Yeah, and I think it's a good name because it's just like in terms of like history, you know, like modern, like what's modern parenting look like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because we're not like 68 parents.
No.
Or even 90s
well,
parents.
oh yeah. Are you trying to say that like we're young?
Yeah, well I just mean, and how has parenting changed, you know what I mean? Because it's like, we're dealing with parenting in the 2020s. And I think there's been a lot of change even from now since parenting in like 2005, 2010.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, especially how we were parented in the 90s.
Oh yeah.
So it's just like, it's amazing how things change. And I think some things do remain the same and true. And I think we're still new parents, but we'll discover that. But there are definitely a lot of like influences that have completely changed. And, people are having kids later. That changes the way that you parent.
Yeah, so let's clarify. We are not 22 years old.
No, not at all.
We became parents in 2022, but we were in our mid-20s. So
yes,
yeah,
we are feeling the approaching 30s. I'm feeling it at least.
Oh, well, you're barely approaching.
I see it like in a distance, and I'm like, ah! I'm like, but don't stress out about it yet.
Not yet.
But I can see it.
We got plenty of time.
It's like an iceberg,
But we're officially at that point where you can't like be part of the young crowd anymore. I feel like you hit once you get past 23, like that's it. That's over. Oh man.
Yeah.
So I guess just to get us started, we're gonna talk about a little bit about our transition into parenthood.
Yeah.
So we have a little baby girl. She's 8.5 months old now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we've just kind of been blown away by what we've learned with parenting. And, so we wanted to try this out, see if it goes well. If not, it's okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess we can kind of start from the beginning. I was born in, I'm just playing. We can start, I think, with, firstly, we had a plan. As we always do, as humans tend to have plans.
Yeah.
And we are Christians, we're believers, and, we believe that God has his own plans and his own will. And there's verses that talk about man orders his steps. And God is like, yeah.
Is that the exact verse? And
this
God is like,
this
bam!
Is the translated, this is like the Message version, but like my version,
My version of the Message version. Oh.
Even though we had planned on waiting 5 years into marriage. We were married.
Well, we should talk about that.
Okay.
Let's go. Let's take a step back. Yeah.
Keep going back. Okay.
So, we we got married in October, and one of the reasons we got married when we did is because I gave this big logical argument about, I wanted to wait 5 years in our marriage, and then I'll be at when I felt like was in a comfortable age to start having children.
Yep.
So that way we could have the time to ourselves first, while still not being like, I didn't personally want to be like 32, 35 when I started having kids.
That's fair.
So that's why we got married when we did. And so we had this whole 5-year plan. We were gonna work up in our careers and, save up for a house and then have kids. And how long did we make it?
3 months?
3 or 4 months.
3 or 4 months.
Is when we got pregnant. We didn't have her that quickly.
Yeah. So here we are, with an 8.5-month-old, but, at the time, I think it really shook our idea or, foundation of what we thought our next few years of marriage is going to be. And we had just started too. Like we were still adjusting to one another, and living at the time in like a 1-bedroom apartment, so things were close, they were tight knit.
3 months is not very long married
it's
at
not
all.
long at all.
It feels like a while at first, but then you look back and you're like,
it's not long.
That was a blip.
I think even in a marriage, without the baby at all, you should take that time. Because you still need, I feel like a year or two to get to know.
Oh, yeah. No, that first year is hard.
It's hard, yeah. There's a lot of adjusting, and you realize, I think, because you go in and you're so infatuated with that person, regardless of you know, maybe it's you've been dating someone for 10 years, maybe you got an engagement for 5 years. You know what I'm saying? Ours wasn't quite that long, but when you go in and you have expectations, you have ideas of what it's going to be like, and then you discover all these things about your partner and about yourself, and how you react to certain things, because you've likely not lived with someone in this capacity before. You know what I mean?
Or at least we didn't.
We did not. So it's like, it's a big change. And so to do that for 3 months and then be like, oh, by the way, you're now going to be dealing with a pregnancy and then a baby is huge. So
for the next 20 years.
For the next...
Well, not a baby for 20 years. A kid for 20 years.
Well, in a sense, a baby, you know. I'm just kidding.
Wow. Let's hope not.
Let's hope not. No. Yeah, so it's just a huge change, and I think it can really... I think people could not handle it well, I think, and you know, I think we handled it okay. I'd say we were like average handling it.
Yeah, I mean, it got better.
It did. It
got better.
It was rough at first.
So like, what happened with us is that we actually had a few. I feel like it was 1 or 2 pregnancy scares where I was like a couple days late.
Yeah.
And that was horrifying. I was like, oh no. But it was fine. It all worked out. And then I was a week late, and I was like, oh, this is probably it. You know what I mean? And so I remember after that full week had passed, because after the first couple scares, I was like, I need to actually wait some time before I take a test. And so I remember coming home from work. It was like a really late night, and I stopped by Target, picked up a test, and then I like went straight through the door. I didn't say hi to Bryce or anything. I was like, I need to use the bathroom. Dead face, you know, no smiles, no like welcome home kisses or anything. Yeah. And I took the test, and it was positive. And I took 2 at once because I wasn't gonna have any of this like false positive nonsense. I feel like that's just, I wasn't gonna deal with that.
No.
So yes, then I took the test, and I was not in a place in my mindset to have a kid yet, and that was hard. That was really, really hard. So I remember taking it out to you and just holding it to you, and I think the fact that you saw the test, you didn't even need to see that it was positive.
I figured, yeah. I knew
and you saw my face too.
The face was actually more of a giveaway, yeah. Honestly.
And that was that. So I mean, I cried for a little bit. It was hard. Yeah, that's kind of how we found out about how we got pregnant.
Yeah. I mean, I think, yeah, we had a plan, and it was hard. And even in that moment, I wasn't even thinking about, like, the fact that we didn't succeed in our 5-year kind of plan. I was just thinking about, like, how is life going to change now in the next year? And there were so many questions that we had, I think, and it was kind of scary.
We should also preface, like, we don't live close to family either.
No, not at all.
So like we just moved here. At that time, it had been like a year for you, a little bit over a year for me, and so like we were still like coming up with like close friendships, and we didn't have any family support near us. Like they're all hours away. And so I think that also like added to the weight of it all, because we knew we couldn't just like drop her off at grandma's house and then head off with our day. Like we had to figure out childcare, we had to figure out expenses, we had to figure out all different kinds of things.
Absolutely. Yeah, that social net, like that you know, those people that you can fall back on is so important. Even when you're not having a baby, you need like people, family, to be able to fall back on when you're going through like a big change or a tough time, or just, you know, to go to for encouragement or joy. And so when you don't have that, you know, you first of all, you desperately seek it out. Hopefully you do.
You should. I would suggest it.
I would suggest it. And it, you know, it doesn't have to be family. Obviously, it can just be people that you love, like friends. You know, friends stick closer to their brother, and it's just like we saw like our potential future, and we were like, dude, where's our support? And that was scary. It's like, you know, walking on a tightrope without a net down below, you know what I mean? And taking a baby with you. So, yeah, that was a big deal for us. And I think and later on, we'll discuss this later on in the video, but it definitely influenced our decisions on how we wanted to handle the pregnancy. And that's another topic. But yeah, it was big. I mean, I was excited too, though.
Yeah, I mean, after a couple of after the first scare, you kind of started getting excited about having a baby.
I was, even before it was real. I was just like, you know what? This is going to be great.
I'm actually kind of hoping for it.
Yeah.
I was like, I cannot do this.
Don't jinx us.
So
Yeah.
so like when I think when I came out with that pregnancy test, you were like, you kind of had a smile on your face.
I did have a slight smile.
You didn't want to go too big. 'Cause you knew I wasn't ready for it.
I knew you were it was a hard thing for you.
But
so.
I mean, it did help that I knew that you were happy, because I think if we were both upset, that would have been even harder.
Oh yeah, you don't want that. If at least one person's on board, it's a helpful.
Helps.
It balances things a little bit.
Yeah.
And I was excited. I mean, I think, the prospect of being a father and the idea was always exciting to me. And I looked up to a lot of men in my life who were fathers, and obviously I value the family. You know what I mean? I value my family. I always wanted to start a family when I was younger, and so I think to me I was like, oh, this is so exciting. This is going to be incredibly hard and life changing. But
oh yeah.
I think I was very positive in that moment, and still. And throughout the entire pregnancy, really, I feel like, But luckily, I mean, we had things that changed in our lives before the baby came that helped us, I think, come to terms with it and like feel better about it. We moved to a larger apartment, basically in a nicer area. I was lucky enough to get a stay-at-home job, a work-from-home job.
Yeah.
Which came in really in the nick of time. Like God's timing is incredible. And Sarah started a new position. She was doing show ops, which for those of you who don't know, that's like theater schedule. That's running a show. That's shows at night. I mean, you can kind of get into that a little bit, but it's not conducive to pregnancy.
Yeah, I mean, so at the time I was working late day hours at best, and weekend and nights. So like I think we had one free day a week, and that was hard.
It was hard.
To like do things together.
Yeah.
And so we knew that we didn't want that as a family, because we wanted to be able to do things together as a family.
Yeah.
So you got your new job shortly after we found out about the pregnancy. It was
great.
like a month or two.
Yeah.
And then we moved into a 3-bedroom place, which was I think it's been a really good decision. We've loved it here.
It's been great. Yeah. I mean, it has its pros and cons, but it's definitely a big step up from where we were.
Oh,
and
yeah.
We never would have had the space there.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how some people do it. I guess you just have to make some sacrifices.
I think we would have made it work up until she started rolling around and stuff. And now that she's crawling and stuff, it would have been really challenging.
Yeah, a lot of things that she needs that we wouldn't be able to fit here.
Yeah. We want for her.
Exactly.
And then I got my job, my new job in my third trimester. So that took a little while.
It did, yeah. That was a little more high pressure.
But yeah, I think what was nice about it is that there were things that came together, and then we also were proactive about taking steps too.
Yeah.
So it kind of all just became one. I guess.
Yeah, no, most definitely. Yeah.